I'd like to thank the committee for accepting my proposal. It has been a tumultuous research year where my focus switched around a lot, but eventually settled on power dynamics in Larp. I want to preface this talk by saying this is only a short excerpt out of my bachelor's thesis about power dynamics in Vampire the Masquerade. I must also sadly say it somewhat deviates from the abstract that was presented, as I will only be talking about bottom-up power dynamics exclusively. The time limit of the presentation forced me to choose one of the two, and I chose this one. I also want to quickly note that this paper has been quite last-minutely translated into English, as the original is in Dutch and was still being rewritten and revised while this video was recorded. When you hear it, I should have normally finished it, and I'm anxiously waiting on my grade. Onto the paper. The specific powerful roles in Vampire the Masquerade are all playable by players. Primogens are usually the strongest or longest playing member of the clan, or the one with the most influence in the game. The prince is normally chosen by the players, but may also be appointed or portrayed by the game organizers, often to launch the game or when no suitable candidate exists. The role of harpy is always played by a player, as they are best suited to track interpersonal dynamics between characters. Game masters cannot always be present and don't see everything. Harpies aren't all-seeing either, but work as a team to pick up gossip and rumors. Their task is to engage with other characters as much as possible and to wield their power in assigning penalties when, for example, boons are not honored. All of these positions have a place in the game, and when characters are assigned them, players can perform actions appropriate to those roles. This might involve presiding over or attending meetings on important matters, issuing commands, or in the Harpy's case, gathering information through conversations. For many of these roles, it's important to build a network of characters they can rely on and whose skills and connections they understand. Vampire the Masquerade is a social game where much of the roleplay is expressed through conversations and discussions, far less through physical combat as in other LARPs. The same social dynamic extends outside the game. The players form a real-life community that meets beyond game time. The hours before the game are used for catching up or planning scenes they want to play out. After the game, there is discussion about the events, what characters did, and how others responded, or about scenes some players may have missed due to being occupied elsewhere. Because of this dynamic nature, no player experiences everything in a LARP night, and new things are always discovered during post-game conversations. This after-talk can be compared to theater-goers discussing a play in the lobby afterward. Each will have their own interpretation and will have noticed different things. Just as talking to a play's creators may provide new insight, speaking with the game masters post-LARP may help players resolve issues in their personal plotlines. Pre- and post-game conversations take place in a liminal space, a term explored by Victor Turner mostly. Players exist in a state between character and self, with some conversations being in character and others explicitly out of character. Discussions can be in the past tense and third person, or in the present tense using I instead of the character's name. The pre-talk eases the transition into the game. The post-talk helps shake off the character and return to oneself. One function of post-game conversations is to counter performance bleed. Sarah Lynn Bauman describes bleed as the spillover between player and character. It's an umbrella term for how playing a character affects the player or vice versa. When a player experiences bleed, they struggle to separate themselves from their character or situation. This can cause conflict when in-game emotions are taken out of game. Hostility toward a character may be projected onto the player. Bleed can also work the other way, when a player injects too much of their own personality or ideals into their character, blurring the line between self and role. This can disrupt gameplay if the character isn't portrayed appropriately. Post-game conversation helps mitigate bleed, but also strengthens the LARP network and social experience. The network created through these talks often helps gameplay, since Vampire the Masquerade revolves around alliances. Out-of-game alliances can make it easier for players to form in-game connections. Pierre Bourdieu calls this social capital, the value tied to someone's network. This capital can be used to convince others to follow certain actions in the game. Having an existing out-of-game network makes it more comfortable to interact with certain players, similar to how actors often form collectives for theater productions due to the intimacy required on stage. For actions requiring physical contact, like a blood ritual, it's more comfortable if players know each other outside the game. However, this out-of-game network can also be misused. A player leveraging it to unfairly gain power in-game is abusing their social capital, for example by importing outside information. In one case, observed during an autoethnographic analysis of Vampire the Masquerade sessions, a player, X, quickly built and expanded their social capital, both in and out of game. Their character became indispensable due to a high-ranking position and numerous alliances. Outside the game, they befriended many players, offering mentorship and sharing game knowledge. However, this player often used the out-of-game network to obtain information they should not have had in-game, effectively cheating. Their character would reference things they hadn't been present for, disrupting the game's timeline. These conversations often took place during downtime, periods between live sessions representing a month in-game, usually held via chat apps like Facebook Messenger or Discord. Because these channels also served for post-game discussion, it was unclear which messages were in-game. Disputes became effectively word against word. If one player treated the channel as in-game but others didn't, fair play became impossible. This led to a rule change. From then on, a game master had to be present in all downtimes, even for trivial matters. Players were also limited to one downtime at a time and needed to wait for it to end before starting another. This wasn't well received, requiring scheduling and slowing down interactions. Some conversations stretched over days or weeks. If dice rolls were needed, players had to wait for the game master, leaving little time for multiple actions between sessions. As a result, some players switched to voice chat, which removed much of the atmosphere due to the lack of descriptive detail and interruptions. Players who trusted each other simply continued as before. The abuse of power through an expanded social capital and out-of-game network led to a rule change, disrupting the game for many. An example of how one person's actions can affect an entire group, both in-game and in real life. A positive outcome, however, of out-of-game networking can be seen among weaker or more introverted players. While there is a stereotype of role players being introverted nerds, studies show most actively seek to build identity and social networks through play. Nonetheless, some players struggle to voice themselves or initiate interactions. Vampire the Masquerade expects players to create conflict and pursue goals proactively, which can be a barrier for shy individuals. However, when these players have a strong out-of-game network, friends or mentors who look out for them, they have more opportunities to grow. Approaching another character is easier if the player is a real-life friend. The play-to-lift principle also helps, where experienced players initiate contact and draw others into the story. For example, a new player, K, sat alone, watching others interact. A veteran player, S, noticed this and approached them. S's character had a large in-game network, so it was natural to engage a newcomer. This helped K connect to the game, expand their character's network, and join plotlines. Next session, K would already know several characters and find it easier to join in. Had K already built an out-of-game network, they might have told someone about their difficulty finding a starting point and asked for help. Even when they hadn't, strong game culture or leadership can identify and assist such players. Both the negative and positive examples reveal power dynamics. The first player rose from a lowly position to influence the rules. The second remained in a bottom position, struggling to engage, while those in top roles either didn't intervene or failed to recognize the issue or, in this specific case, recognized it and helped her. Or them. The aforementioned was a really brief case study of a larger research project. In my actual thesis, I also look at the top-down effects of power dynamics and give certain possible solutions or way to look at these dynamics. Sadly, time limit of this presentation does not allow me to go further into my other topics. I would, however, be very happy to discuss these more through the open sessions or any other ways. I've been absolutely engaged with my thesis at this moment. At time of recording, I'm still rewriting it. So if anyone has any questions, I would gladly answer them. Don't hesitate to start up a conversation. Thank you for listening.